Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back, and we'll start our next session of the day, which is from Kochi chapter on how to assess the success of an agile implementation by Jayman Francis, who is a enterprise agile coach at Tata Consultancy Services. But before begin our session, I would like to thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots, which is a leading consulting and training service provider helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. For more information, visit www.innovationroots.com. I would also like to thank our sponsor Gile, which is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services Limited, which is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool, along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprise can use Gile to adopt agile practices or scale across Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as SAFe, Discipline Agile, Less, and more. You can try out Gile for free for up to 20 users for 30 days by signing up at gile.io or reach out to us for any inquiries or exclusive product demo. Check out the Gile page on Agile Network India website for more information. Here are some do's and don'ts for the participants. I request all the participants to join the event 5 minutes before the start time. Use high quality speakers or headphones for better sound quality. Please keep your microphones muted and videos disabled as it may cause disturbance and bandwidth issue. Questions will be taken via the chat box, and I request all the participants to enter their questions in the chat box. At the end of the session, the facilitator or the moderator will help and read out a few questions to the speaker as per the time available. And I request all the participants to fill in the feedback forms after the event to help us understand more about the event management. We appreciate your cooperation. Without much taking a time, I request Nupur to come on cam and microphone, who will be facilitating this session. Hi Nupur, over to you.
Hi Risha, thank you very much. And I'm really excited to facilitate this session because the topic is very, very relevant and important for all of us. And it reminds me a quote by Dale Carnegie, who says that the man who starts out going nowhere generally gets there. So it is very, very important to assess your success as well. And assessing the success of agile implementation is also very critical for organizations. And it requires a keen set of eyes to judge and understand the kind of parameters that are best suited for any organization. And we are really glad to have this session uh, about this topic. And I would like to call upon Jaimon to talk in detail about this. And let's see what kind of questions we have from audiences on this. So over to you, Jaimon.
Hello, hi Nupur. Okay, hello everyone. So very good afternoon. I hope everyone is having a good day. So today we will talk about how to assess the success of agile transformation. So as Nupur said, if we are not monitoring or if we are not assessing where we are heading to, then we will not reach anywhere, right? So that's a very important part of transformation journey. So in this session, we'll also we focus on some real world challenges which normally organizations face and how to overcome some of them. Okay, we'll also cover some of the pitfalls already faced while measuring the success of agile implementation. And then I will also share some of my experiences on the best practices. Before moving on, a quick introduction. I'm working as an enterprise agile coach in Tata Consultancy Services. I have around 20 years of IT experience, and I've been an agile practitioner for around 6 years. I've played multiple roles as Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Agile Coach. I'm working with Kanban, Scrum, as well as SAFe teams. I'm also an AI ML enthusiast. Currently, I'm pursuing postgraduate diploma in data science from IIIT Bangalore. So moving on, let's quickly look into the agenda. So first, to start off, we will have classified kind of into different parts. So let's look into first we'll look into the agile transformation drivers. Okay, we'll understand why organization move towards agility. Okay, why they are embracing agility, because that is key component in the agile journey, agile transformation journey. Then we look at major challenges organization face during that particular journey. Once they start agile transformation journey, what are the major challenges they face, and how they react to it, because that's important. It's okay to make mistakes, but how you react to those mistakes is the key. Okay, then we will look at some of the course correction which we can make. So I will share some of my experiences, and finally we'll look at key focus areas and share some of the best practices. So looking at the agile transformation drivers, so different organizations have different reasons to embrace agility. And some might be due to business reasons. They might need to become the market leaders. They want to increase market share, reduce the cost, or some others just want to survive in the market because competition is fast, and they also want to be relevant in the market. And there could be other set of organizations who just follow the trend because rest of the market players and competitors are following agility, or they're moving towards agile. Okay, so they don't want to be left out. All right. So, and the implementation also will vary. Some organization, they start small, then they scale, whereas some other organization, they start at enterprise level. They look at an organization level transformation. Now, whatever is the driver and how each organization start the transformation, agile transformation as such is a complex process. Okay, it's not a change in process, but rather it's a change in the culture of the organization, the very structure of the organization, and it even touch the way organization do business. So it's a big deal for the entire organization. Okay, and as this journey continues, there will be few challenges, as we said earlier, which organization generally face. So I would like to share some of the use cases and some of the challenges. The challenges organization face might be different across organization because each organization and each team is unique, but there could be a pattern. Okay, so the very first thing, what happens when we start off with the agile journey, agile brings out the weaknesses within the organization. And because that's due to the inherent, design of the agile frameworks, the weaknesses will come out. And how, when the organization transition from traditional to traditional waterfall to agile, it normally takes time for those mindset changes. Okay, so in this session we look at some of the challenges, common mistakes, corrective actions while monitoring the agile transformation journey. Now, few top challenges which we have faced while working with a major BFSI customer is listed here. So as you can see on the left hand side, um, first one is with respect to the leadership and business was struggling to get visibility of when the features will be released. Okay, this created a lot of panic and confusion in the organization. There was no visibility around when releases are going to happen. Okay. Second is around stories being carried forward sprint on sprint, which resulted in unfinished work items being accumulated and forcing the team to be in a catch-up mode, right? So pressure is building up on the team sprint on sprint as we move on. Then the next one is team is struggling to find their rhythm, and they, because they are in firefighting mode, they are not able to find the rhythm. They frequently missed their forecast, and the quality also was compromised. Okay. The next was team skill gaps and dependencies on key members. So this is key, one of the common issue which we face across organizations during the agile transformation journey, because all team members will not have the same skill sets, right? And there will be dependency on some senior team members with the traditional way of working. So all those need to change. Okay. And there will be team members who are not effectively utilized. All team members were not effectively utilized, and some, because of which some were overloaded and some were underutilized. Okay, so when these kind of patterns or behaviors come out, it kind of creates confusion. Are we so that's a point where most of the organization or leaders need to uh, think, are we going in the right direction? There is a tendency to fall back on the traditional way of working, right? So this point is very critical for organizations. When they tend to fall back, that's where, when we will have pseudo agile and hybrid agile kind of approach coming in. So when organization face such challenges and come across such weaknesses, there might be a tendency, as I said, to go back, right? So now in this particular use case, the focus was mainly around sprint level, or is it at a granular level and team level. So the team, when they face with those challenges, the organization was primarily focusing on sprint burn downs and team velocity, individual contribution, how each individual team members are performing, daily tracking, how much of stories are getting completed within the sprint, within the day. And it came to a situation wherein dev and QA, there are separate targets. Okay, so that's was kind of a situation where this particular engagement was. And let's see what course corrections were made to get back on track. Okay, so the first and the foremost challenge which we had was with respect to lack of clarity on when the features will be released. So leadership team was struggling to visualize when the product will be released. Okay, and one of the key thing which was missing here is the what is missing here is one of the three pillars of embedded system, which is transparency, right? So transparency means, as you all know, providing visibility of the information, right, about the work and what is going to happen, right? And a common standard of information. Okay, using a common standard of information across the organization, so that everyone speaks the same language, they have the same understanding, and they have the same interpretation. Okay, so that was lacking. There was lack of transparency. And so um, so in this particular case, as I said, the focus was mainly on the story completion, and there was the sprint on sprint tracking was based on story point completion, team velocity, etc. Okay, so that's kind of and what was the impact of this? Okay, the impact was the big picture was missing, and there was no mechanism to visualize the feature release progress. Second was the dependencies were not visible, which made it difficult to act in time and to enable flow. Okay, how did we go about improving the situation? Okay, there are some pointers. So there are some points. What we improving? Okay, here are. So what we did was prioritize the features based. So a program board was created, which displayed the feature release plan. okay, in the order of priority, so that it is visible to the business, the stakeholders, leadership team, and even the team members that okay, this is the flow of features, this is the plan. Okay. Second, focus on feature completion. So the sprint on sprint progress was track based on feature completion. So the focus was shift from story point completion or achieving team velocity to feature completion. So the focus was shifted to a higher level of value driven outcome. Okay. And then feature dependencies were identified and tracked. So there could be multiple features which had dependency between each other, so that were made visible in the program board. Okay. And what was the outcome? So we had release goals were visible to everyone. So everyone in the organization, including business, product owners, the leadership, technology leadership, and the team, they knew what they have to achieve in the short term as well as in the long term. Okay. Team started focusing on feature completion. So they had pressure on a day-to-day basis and a sprint on sprint basis, and they were not clear on where they are heading. They were just finishing off their stories pulled into the sprint, but they had no clue what it is moving towards, where they are heading to. The time to market was reduced. So when team was focusing on feature completion, the features were released faster. So earlier, the team had no clue on how what are the features. There were multiple features in progress, so there was no work in progress limit which was introduced. Okay. What we did was we introduced a work in progress limit, we reduced the number of features in progress, and encourage team, including the product owner business world, to focus on feature completion. Okay. And the last one, but not the least, is better feedback loop. So the more the features were completed fast, team was able to release the features into production, and they used to get better feedback. The second and most important challenge was related to stories not getting completed in the sprint. Okay. And again, this was caused to various factors. Okay. The input and basically the readiness of the story. Okay. Inputs and prerequisites were not planned. For example, if you're talking about a UI work, the wireframes related to that should be finalized. Okay. Or if it's a web content related kind of work, the content is not finalized. In most of the cases, the wireframe, it's not that wireframe is not at all available, it would be available, but it's not at finalized. So what happened was when the work will start assuming that okay, wireframe will be available, will be finalized in a couple of days, and the team start off with the stories. But once the wireframe is finalized and when it comes to the team, there will be changes in the understanding, and that created a lot of confusions, a lot of back and forths. Okay. So those were some of the challenges which resulted in team not able to complete the stories within the sprint. Another was external team dependency. Okay. So dependencies with other teams, so those were not identified upfront. And the third one was gaps in understanding of the requirements. So there were gaps in understanding of the requirements by the team, as the stories were not refined properly. So the stories were not refined ahead of the sprint before the team start off with the work. They had a fair idea, but they didn't have a clear understanding. And once they start working, there will be queries coming up, and then business go into discussions, and then there is clarifications. Again, there are back and forths. Okay. So impact of these things, there were blockers due to external dependencies. They were reworked because team had to, they were back and forth and they have to change what they were doing, and team were not able to achieve the sprint forecast. Now let's see how this situation was handled, how we improved the situation. So the first thing which we introduced was feature elaboration plan. So feature elaboration plan is, it was mainly owned by the business and product owner, or the product team, and they were requested to ensure that the features, so there is a feature now a program board with the feature plan in it, which is a top feature, and next which one need to be created. They were in that order. The product team were encouraged to elaborate the feature, okay, break down the feature into stories, and get the stories ready. So get the feature elaboration. So first of all was creating a plan for the elaboration, so that the product team itself need to get ready, because it's kind of a continuous system, right? So we need to ensure the flow, to ensure that team has continuous work. The product team need to ensure that the features are ready upfront, so that there is a continuous flow, right? Then the next one was a multi-iterational iteration goals, and this was key because earlier the team was only focusing on the sprint. They were they were just focusing on the what is stories coming into the sprint. They had visibility only into the stories for next sprint, not next 2 or 3 sprints, because maybe a feature will be completed in 2 to 3 sprints. Okay, there will be stories spanning across feature will be spanning across multiple sprints, so that was lacking. Okay, so that was introduced, multi-iteration goal, so that teams do not focus on individual sprints. Okay, the next one was identify dependencies and make it visible. So similar to the program board at team level, when the feature elaboration is happening or when the backlog refinement is happening, the team dependencies were identified, and it was tracked, and it was ensured that the dependencies are getting close before the story is pulled into the sprint. And on top of all this, the business stakeholders and product owner were requested to make the story ready only after the DOR is met. So a definition of ready was established. So there was a definition of ready, but it was not strictly followed, and that's why they had ran into trouble. So it was strictly mandated to meet all the definition of ready before the story itself is made ready and team pull into the sprint. So these are the things and which were taken up, and the outcome, blockers were reduced drastically. So it's not that there were no blockers at all, there were blockers, because that's the inherent nature, but the blockers was reduced drastically. There was a flow established. As the blockers and dependencies kind of reduced, the flow was improved. So there was a continuous flow of the work items were moving, and once the flow was established, the throughput was improved, so velocity was improved. Now, without focusing more on team velocity, the team velocity was automatically improved by improving the flow and creating an environment for team to work. Okay, and again the predictability of the team increase. So these are the some of the benefits or observations. Okay, now moving on to the third item. The next challenge was the team not able to deliver consistently and with quality. Okay, and each organization will have their own challenges, okay, with respect to team, right? So for this particular use case, the issues were with respect to frequent shuffling of team members. The team members had varying and technical skill set, because they were transitioning from traditional to agile. And there used to be a hierarchy, right? So tech lead used to attend most of the discussions and had most of the knowledge. So when they were transitioning, that gap was there. Okay, and that took time to kind of improve. Not all team members were involved in business discussions, and when new teams were formed, so that was one of the pattern we saw. When new teams were formed, they will pull people from the existing team, because there is lack of people with the domain and technical expertise. So that kind of disturbed the team. The second was dev QA silos. The dev team was focusing more on dev completion, because the way the organization was moving, it was going into kind of falling back to the traditional way, right? And dev was focusing more on dev completion. QA were focusing more on the test completion kind of scenario. And as a result, the quality was impacted. There was a lot of defects, because the dev and QA were working on either two totally different items. Dev was most probably they were ahead of the QA. We had those kind of scenarios. So the overall impact we had was the lack of coordination within the team. So there was silos created, dev and QA, and which resulted in poor quality, and technical debt also was accumulating. Okay, now let's look at how this was kind of tackled. Okay, we came up with a common goal for the team. So okay, so the focus was changed from team member performance to a team performance. Okay, and the team uh, performance, encouraged star team of the month, rather than star of the month. There was small steps which were taken. The team members were encouraged to support QA. So now the evaluation was not based on the outcome from dev and QA separate. It was a team output, and dev members was encouraged, and they were also ready when the focus was shifted from individual members what they are doing to a output based assessment. They were also ready to kind of support. Then encouraged pairing and swarming were initiated. So people who were kind of new to the system, they were paired with people already with the experts, so that they learn faster. And these are things which might not need be required for a long term, right? Okay, you can might be a short term until all the team members are up to the speed. Okay, and one of the important thing was key stakeholders were made aware that team composition should be intact. Okay, because agile teams is a well-oiled machine. We cannot keep on changing or shuffling the team members. They need to build that rapport, so that they can work effectively. So that was kind of encouraged. um, Yes, and all team members were involved in business discussions. So, for example, sessions on product vision or quarterly business outcome meetings and backlog refinement session. All team members were encouraged to attend. So they have a vision on what the organization is moving towards, what they have achieved, how did they contributed towards the organization growth, and that all kind of help the organization. Okay, and another thing which we did was the definition of done. So like definition of ready, definition of done was redefined. Okay, and earlier automation was not part of the definition of done. There was a separate for the story. There was a separate separate team to do automation. So automation was brought within scope of the agile team and within the scope of the sprint. And in some cases, mid sprint reviews were introduced so that team, whenever they are ready, you know to get a fast or quick feedback, we'll have a quick session with the business and product owner to get an intermediate feedback, and so that they can make corrective action. And the outcome, we had a better team cohesion. Automation was achieved within the sprint. Earlier it was lacking, and because of which sprint on sprint, because automation was lacked, it was not helping the team in achieving faster delivery. Technical depth was reduced, and overall quality got improved. Okay, so these were some of the outcomes which we could achieve from fine tuning the team performance. Now moving on, this in short, the key is to identify the reasons for the initial challenges. So obviously there will be challenges within the organization as part of the agile transformation journey, but the key is, how do we identify and how do we tackle it? Okay, so that is really important. Are we going forward, doing the course correction and moving forward in the agile transformation journey, or are we falling back to our traditional way, or are we mixing it up? Okay, so that is very important. And now let's go into some of the key focus areas. Okay, it is kind of a summary on what we saw, some of the use cases which I have shared. First one is business value delivery. Okay, the focus should be on value delivery and nothing else. What is the benefit? And this ties back to the driver, which we, if you remember at the beginning, right? There is a particular business driver towards which the organization, why organization is embracing agility, and that is what we should measure as well. Okay, what is the business value we are delivering? So there should be a visibility of the feature. We discussed about the visibility of feature level release plan. At any point in time, teams should be working on the features with the highest business value. Okay, then maintain feature elaboration plan, maintain multiple iteration goals. So the team should be aware of the goal, what they are working towards. So that is very important. And the way how we can measure business value delivery is basically by looking at what is in the last quarter. If you say what is the business value being delivered or released into production, or it actually reached the user. Okay, the next is releasable features. Features should be releasable in the sense it should be the feature should be breakdown if necessary, smaller the better, and or group the features logically so that there is less dependencies and it can be shipped. Okay, identify the dependencies upfront and make it the risk visible. Ensure that the risks are visible, dependencies are visible, so it can be acted on time. Okay, and improve the flow within the system. Okay, and that's what the base of to ensure that the throughput or the velocity improves. Do not measure the velocity of the team, or do not measure the throughput of the team. Try to improve the flow, focus on the top business value. Automatically the velocity and throughput will increase. Okay, that is an outcome. It's not a measuring unit. The next one is time to market, and this one focus on small quick releases. This one is really important. The time to market should be small. There is no value in creating product and not releasing it. If it's not reaching the user, there is no value. The more we hold the finished products, the value, there is decay in value. So if you are accumulating, then it's a waste. The whole point of adopting agility is lost. Okay, so time to market, keep it low, keep it short. The batch size should be small, it should be releasable, it should reach the user. Next one is quality. Here, we briefly discussed about the DoD. Challenge the team to constantly improve the definition of done. For example, automation, test coverage. We need to, the only way to get quality and that too faster is by automation. Okay, now there will be, yeah, another point is technical debts. Okay, ensure that technical debts are addressed, it's not getting accumulated. Okay, because for example, like things like code refactoring, we need to prioritize those. Okay, it's not just about business value, and we also need to address the technical debts as well. So do not keep the technical debts towards the end, or keep it low priority, because that will affect the quality of the team. Okay, so another important thing is quality. Measure the quality of the team. Okay, quality of the outcome which is coming. Okay, and there are some other parameters which we should watch out for. So one is which are not actually tangible. Okay, right, one is the do we have the business engaged? For example, there should be constant business engagement. If business is functioning as a separate organization, then the whole point of collaboration is lost, right? So in one of the engagement which I worked, the first step they did as part of their agile transformation journey was to break the silo between business and technology. So the organization was working in traditional waterfall, there was business organization, there was technology organization, they were working in silos. The first and foremost thing was to break it, the silos, bring the business and organization together. And what they did was, and each different organization might have their own strategy to do it, but what they did was, one of the things they did was to have product owners from the business world, okay, working directly with the team, and there is no mediators there. Another item is, do we have an innovative work environment? Okay, because innovation is key to improve the productivity. For example, in our case, automation, it was not given focus at the in the early stages. It was kept as separate out of the sprint, right? But when it was included, teams started thinking about automation even when they started coding. Okay, it helped in improving the quality. The scripts, eventually all the test cases or testing was automated, and the time was reduced for testing. Okay, so leave room for innovation. Team should have space to innovate. Do not keep them 100% busy. It's not going to help in the long run. Okay, and the next one is, and the next important pillar of empiricism in inspect and adapt. Create an environment for constant improvement and learn from the mistakes. Okay, ensure that the team retrospectives are happening properly. Inspect adapt is happening on every agile ceremonies, or scrum ceremonies. Okay, so these things we need to ensure it's happening. These are, we cannot really measure these, but there are some of the items are tangible, some are intangible, but and these are some of the items which are not tangible. Okay, and with that we are coming to the conclusion, end of this session. The challenges which organization face, and the how they overcome, it might be different for each organization, because each organization, each engagement, each team is different, so we cannot generalize it. But learnings from we should carry the learnings from each organization along with us, because it will help in one way or other. Okay, and I hope this session was useful, and I believe we can open up for Q&A now. Nupur.
Thank you so much, Jamon. It was a nice session, and I could see a couple of questions coming in. Let's begin with the first question by Suresh. He's saying, you spoke about transparency. How did you achieve it? Did you face any challenge? And how it can be achieved in remote work? So I think there are three parts of this question. You can go one by one.
Okay, so see, in our case, leadership was not able to visualize what is happening. Okay, they were not able to visualize where the team is heading or when the releases are going to happen. So as I mentioned, there was a program board which was created, and we were working in a remote way because due to the pandemic, right? We had a digital program board, and the features were kind of prioritized, and each feature, when each feature will be delivered, was displayed, and the dependencies were also highlighted, so it was visible to everyone. And even those were reviewed during the scrum meetings, and the dependencies were also discussed. So in a yeah, I mean, there are a lot of tools available now, to digitize the program board. We don't need a physical board any longer, right? There are a lot of tools available. We were using Miro, and it was really helpful. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I hope so too. Jamon, moving on to the next question by Ankur. He's asking how to know the story points of user stories and how to calculate original estimation on each task associated with the user stories.
Uh, can you come the first question? How to?
So first is how to know the story points of user stories. This is the first part of the question, and the second part is how to calculate original estimation on each task associated with the user stories.
All right. Okay. So you are talking about, I believe you are talking about user story and the tasks under it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I also
Uh,
think so.
yeah. So user story estimation. See, normally we go with the story, story point estimation. The general use tool is planning poker, for which team members do their story point estimation. So everyone in the the product owner will explain what the story is, and then the team members come up with estimates, right? And we'll finalize the story point which is common, which is agreed by everyone. There are other methods also, but I am not kind of experienced really. But there is something called affinity estimation, wherein there is, if there are too many stories to be estimated, okay, story point estimation might take longer. So affinity estimation is where there is not much talking around the requirement or discussion around why one agree disagree, but it's around, if there are 5 people and there is a card which displays the requirement, one person will say, okay, it is again like either it can go with the Fibonacci series, okay, and one person will move the card to 5 pointer, and if everyone agrees, and they just move on, okay. And if there is a disagreement, if someone else think that it's not a 5, it should be 8, then it is parked, okay. And then it will be discussed separately, Okay. The help and the advantage of affinity, and they just move on. Okay, if everyone agrees, they just move on to the next set of user stories. Okay, so if you have a lot of user stories, like 100 200 stories to estimate, go with affinity estimation. It will help you to estimate the stories faster, and whichever has disagreement, it can be for those you can have a planning poker session arranged. Okay. With coming to the second part, task, it you know uh, I would say, to start off, when the team is formed, and you start off with the estimation process, you can go with creating tasks and estimating the hours. Okay. But again, once the team is used to they know their velocity. Okay. Once they are comfortable with their velocity, they know what their velocity means, and everyone have the similar understanding, you can slowly move away from that. Okay. Uh, it's not, if think whether it's really required. Do not follow because there is a process of creating user stories, story pointing, then creating task and estimating in hours. Do not do it because we have to do it. If team can estimate without having task and estimation in hours, they can do that. Okay, so it's really up to the team how comfortable they are with the story point estimation, how accurately they can do it. The whole point is to come up with the velocity of the team. Okay. Again, the focus should be because I have seen cases wherein the focus is mainly on how much is the hours estimated versus how much is the actual hours being um, delivered by the team, right? So it really depends. Initially, to start off, you can have the task breakdown so that the team get comfortable, but once the team is used to and they are comfortable, you can slowly fade it off and just have the story point estimation.
All right, Devon. We have approximately 3 to 2 minutes in hands, and we'll try to answer one or two questions in that. Uh, this is an interesting question. I think all of us seek the answer to this. Is by Prashant Gulwadi, who is asking, how do you actually calculate business value?
All right. So it's actually it's again, there are multiple ways. One we did was, we have 10 features or 10 business goals. Now, for business to prioritize, we just ask them to number it, like, what is the top priority value, not in quantitatively. Okay, they just number it as a, like we do our story point estimation, come up with a arbitrary value, a relative value for different, if there are 10 features, to get the high level priority order. Okay, that is one way to do it. If we really want to have the value in ROI terms, then obviously there are business dollar values associated with it, right? So for a particular feature, business will have their return of interest, right? So that is their dollar value, which business will kind of have. But for a prioritization perspective, it was, we always fall back on, rather than going with the ROI, it was primarily on the arbitrary values, just to compare, and that's quick. If you give 10 features or 10 uh, products or product features, business will be able to tell which is the biggest value for them, and based on that come up with an arbitrary value. We had 1 to 10, and then for team, that is the key, right? Knowing the dollar value for a team perspective, it might not really help. They just need to know which is a top priority for business. That's all they need, right? So from a team perspective, we used to had this arbitrary values.
All right, Jaimon, thank you so much for answering the questions. And with that, we are back on time to close the session. It was wonderful to have you with us. And thanks to all the
Thank you.
participants for amazing questions. Thank you very much.